Space Jockey is one of the more customizable Atari 2600 video games you could come across, boasting well over 16 game variations. 16 game variations! That's a lot of stuff. No other game allowed for 16 game variations of extreme customization. Well, except for those that offered 16 plus 50 more game variations, but those games. Space Jockey and its 16 variations is where it's at. Or maybe not. The 16 game variations of Space Jockey that's proudly advertised on the cover does not significantly alter the overall premise of the game. You control a flying saucer thing, and your goal is to shoot down anything that moves. The only definitive thing that can end your career as a Space Jockey, derherp, is enemy fire. I say definitive because colliding with other objects may or may not kill you depending on the game variation you're playing. Games 9 to 16, for those wondering, enables death by collision. From there, the parameters of the game is entirely up to you, and the 16 variations of gameplay which alter aspects of the game. The standard default game that the game starts you off with when you start up the game is not very good. 3 rows of enemy come along, fly in a straight line, you can only move up and down, not very exciting. And if you were to stick with this mode exclusively, Space Jockey can feel pretty bland, but explore a little more and you'll find modes that will cause the ship to move off course a bit. You'll find modes that will give you full multi-directional control over your flying saucer, and you'll find modes that will allow you to guide your shots, much like in River Raid. So if you overcome that initial tendency to start in the first game variation, you'll eventually find a variation more suited to your liking, and possibly one that can provide a meaty challenge. Unfortunately, as much as you can pull hyperbole out of your ass over the 16 game variations that's provided here, the truth of the matter is that Space Jockey itself does not stray from the beaten path. There are no levels per se, no subtle increase in difficulty as you progress onwards, the colors don't even change, nor does the overall strategy. It's always going to be the same strategy, slightly altered depending on the mode of play, and it's a single player affair, not even 2-player alternating where you can compete with a buddy for the high score. Space Jockey ends up being a game best played in short bursts, because after about a half hour play or less, it starts to feel monotonous. And when a little ancient Atari video game with little variation starts to feel monotonous, then something is seriously wrong. If nothing else, Space Jockey looks like a decent game. The various spacecraft have some color and detail to them that's almost impressive to a degree, and even the occasional house looks pretty neat, if not out of place. I like the little animation of your flying saucer spinning. It's a minor thing that's almost easy to miss, but it's a nice touch regardless. And the scrolling of the scenery below is also relatively smooth. Sound, however, is a mixed bag. On the one hand, you have some typical sounding Atari explosions that's par for the course. On the other hand, your fired shots emit this strange mechanical sounding sound that's awkward sounding, though I will say it is unique if nothing else. Overall, Space Jockey is a game that, despite its 16 variations that alter the gameplay in a variety of ways, is best played in short bursts. For what little it offers, it does a competent job of it. It functions the way it's supposed to. You could play this and have something of a good time with it. However, beyond giving you different styles of play, the core aspect remains constant, and it gets to a point where it can feel tedious to play for any significant stretch of time. On a whole, Space Jockey is not one of the best titles on the 2600. It'd be a stretch to even call it good, but it is competent, it is functional, it is average, and in short bursts, it can be enjoyable. So, if you come across a copy for cheap, go ahead and give it a whirl. It's pretty harmless.